Okay, so basically one thing we all have in common as developers is the fact that we have unused code bases, unused lines of code, code logic, somewhere buried in your code base. So it's common to everybody, whether you are writing your code by hand, you are using AI agents, there's a part of your code that you definitely have that code base, that logic rather, that you're not using. So today I'm going to share with you guys what I use to manage this in my project. So the library I use is called Knip, and let me type it here. It's called Knip. So Knip is a library to manage unused dependencies, exports, and files in your TypeScript and JavaScript projects. So how do you use it? Basically, you use it. These are just all the ways you can use it. You have example of this command. Just type Knip production. But what does Knip production mean and stuff like that? So let's go through it. Knip basically have all of these commands you can use. It has different modes. You have the caching mode that enables caching for you. You have the cache location, the production, the strict, the watch. So what the watch does, basically, if you're familiar with how watch works in all of these libraries, it watches your file and basically runs in a loop, sort of, to ensure that whenever you save your code or whatever in your file system, as long as it's installed into the project, it runs and checks that same command multiple times. So in my case, let me just show you guys an example. So if I have Knip and I run it in this project, so first thing to understand is this project is a large project. I'm testing it in this project to show you guys an example of what I'm trying to do. So this project is another project that I have, and it's a node project that I'm converting into something else. But then there's a lot of unused projects because it's more like a combination of two different projects to make it into one. So there's a lot of unused stuff after I was able to merge and repackage it for stuff I want to use it for. So if I run the Knip command on this project, the first thing you see is I have 97 unused files in this project. Yes, because like I said, it's a combination of multiple things that I want. So I have 97 unused files. I have, and you can see them across different places, the routes, the welcome, different stuffs, the components, even shard and UI components that I installed sometime that I didn't get to use, the fonts, configs, the hooks, the context, the packages. But interestingly, I need the packages and the public function because I want to deploy this package to npm registry as a package that I want to use and stuff like that. So yeah, so I need the packages, but that's the only thing I need for this project. The other stuff like the stores, the store, the utils, I don't need them. The second thing you notice also here is the unlisted dependencies. The difference between unlisted dependencies and uninstalled dependencies is basically the fact that unlisted dependencies are not the dependencies you don't have installed. They are the dependencies that you have installed but is not listed in your package.json, either in your dependencies, your dev dependencies, or your peer dependencies if you have that also. So that's just for you to note. The third thing you need to understand is you have the unused export. Unused export in this case can be quite tricky if you have to manage that yourself. The reason is because when you have, let me see if I can cite an example. Let me look for something here. So let's say you have this as an example, right? So you can see most of the functions in this file are not being used. They are not cleaned yet. And the reason why that is because you just see they are not being used because they are grayed out. If I go to the ones that are being used, you can see they are bluish in color. So the difference between them is that the IDE can tell me they are not being used. But if I run probably like a linter or something, it might not really complain or during the build process. Yes, because there's no error. But this helps me identify that, okay, this is not being used at any point in time in the code base, so it can be used across. So in this case now, this is an example of an export that is not being used. So definitely Knip is going to find it for me and tell me that, oh yeah, you have stuff that are not being used. As you can see the hooks here, right? Hooks. So there are like 12 of them, if I'm not mistaken. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That was close. So I have like 11 functions that are not being used. Like I said, I'm still cleaning up the project. I wanted to clean it up, but want to make this video before cleaning it so that I can show you guys a real project that Knip can be very useful for. So I have 97 unused files, 6 dependencies, unlisted dependencies, not that they are not installed, they are installed by another package, unused export, then unused export types. The export type is different. Like I said, if you have an export, an interface or a type, as you can see, differentiates it, interface type, and then you do not use the types, but you export the type somewhere in your project, it still finds it for you and say, hey, you didn't export, you exported this, but you are not using it anywhere in the code base. Do you want to use it? Remove it, do whatever with it. Just know that it is not being used. So this is solid for many reasons. Now it helps you to manage your project, to know, okay, this is what I'm building. By the time I'm deploying, or I want to build this project for deployment or for production or whatever, you know that is what is expected. That's the first thing. The second thing you realize here is you can actually add it to your script to make it run the way you want it to run. So for example, if I want to run the watch command I showed earlier, I could just say Knip watch, so that when I run my dev server, it also runs automatically in the background, and then tells me if it runs concurrently rather, and tells me if I have unused dependencies by running all of those things. So yeah, but then if I'm going to run this, I'm going to run it in not the verbose mode, kind of, so just it doesn't populate in my with the logs in my dev server and stuff like that. So that's basically one way to use it. Another way to use it is you can configure it like this and add stuff like, what do you want to run whenever you run the command? Do you want to run it for the dependencies? Do you understand all of those things? So these are examples of how you can also configure it for your script. So now to go to how you can actually use Knip. So let's go to knip.help to just see an example of how you can use it. Now I'm not going to the web version to show you guys. I want to show you from the terminal so you can actually see what is available to use. So the first thing from here you see is you have different modes, right? You can also use the tsconfig file to define project files. Like there's a lot of configurations you can do. This is just the basic one I'm showing you guys. How you can use it, just get started before reading the documentation and stuff. It just works. So then if you want to go deep into it to configure it for your project, probably you have multiple people working on the project and you want to reduce the effect of that, you can add it as a pre-commit hook and all of those things. They are configurable. Basically, that's what I mean. So you have the mode, the cache location. You can include entry exports. So basically include entry files when importing unused export. So you can define it not to consider the gate ignore, like, oh yeah, do not respect the gate ignore. You can configure it just for production by setting it to only analyze production source files, no test files, no dev dependencies at all. And you can make it, you can run it in the watch mode or in the strict mode. Consider only direct dependencies of workspaces, not dev dependencies or other workspaces. That's if you're working in a monorepo, that really helps. So you have different scopes also by defining the workspace you are working with, the directory, the include and exclude. In my case, now remember I said I want to use the packages. So if I'm to run a command that actually helps me manage all of the unused files automatically, I will most probably want to exclude the packages directory and the public directory, because I don't want them to be automatically deleted by Knip if I want it to run the destructive command. So that's how to handle that part. Then you have other stuff like dependencies that you can use as a shortcut to include dependencies, unlisted binaries and all of those stuff in your code base. So yeah, basically, so you can check all of this stuff yourself when you install it. It's very easy to get started without any of these complexities. So but this is just for project level configuration or global level configurations. Then you have the fix, where you can actually fix issues, modifies files in your repo. Now if I want to fix this now, giving it this command means yes, clean up the repo for me at some point in time. I don't want to do that here because I need to be sure I want to remove all of this. I'm just using this as an example to show you guys of a project where you have a lot of stuff that you're not using. This is a combination of two different projects for me, so obviously I don't need all of them. I've taken most of what I need. I will discard the other ones. So this is just to show you guys. So the next thing you have is the output. You can define what the output is. Like I said, if I was adding it to my here, as I was explaining the other time for the watch command, I most probably want to define the number of max issues to show me, so it doesn't overload or flood my dev server, right? I may want that. I may want the reporter option. So basically for output that you see in the terminal and how you want it to be displayed, you can define it anyhow you want that to be. So basically this is just Knip, and the other stuff you can do like shortcut issue types that you can use. Then examples, these are just examples you can configure. You can just add this to probably here and do something like this, and it works out of the box. So that's basically, so I just wanted to share it with you guys how this helps me, and I believe it will help in your code basis and whatever you build as well. So yeah, basically this is it. This is what I wanted to show you guys in this video. I hope you've learned something. So if you have questions, just drop it in the comments, and I'll be sure to respond to the questions and give the answer the best way and based on my usage of it to tell you what is best and what is not. So yeah, that's it for me. Thank you guys for watching. Catch you guys in the next one. Bye for now.